Hello and welcome to Heavy Metal Rex. My name is Awais, and today I'm actually going to take a look at some of the competitors that people are always telling me about that one would say directly, or in some cases indirectly, compete with the WRX. Now, we actually have the 24 WRXs coming up, and things have changed, and we have more trims coming along, but what I wanted to focus on was just base specs for the WRX and a lot of these other cars. Now, some of them I've actually driven, some of them I've actually even owned in the past, so I'm going in this as unbiased as I can, because obviously I am a WRX channel and I love the WRX, but I love a lot of these other cars as well, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get into this. So now most of you know that the WRX prices have gone up this year, and they've actually gone up pretty much every year that the car has been out, but they have added a few extra features. Now, you may say, well, I don't really want that, but majority of these cars are still being sold to just people who want to enjoy them on a daily basis and still use them for practical reasons. So I've kept this to a very specific price range and type of car. Well, I won't say type of car. I try to keep it under $35,000 because most of the cars come in around the same price. Once you get over $35,000, you end up with a different type of car. And specifically the two cars I mean, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out right now, is the GR Corolla and the Type R, or even the Golf R. I don't really consider those to be in the same class as a WRX and the other cars that I'm about to show you, and you'll totally understand why. So the base WRX is 271 horsepower, a 2.4 liter boxer engine. It's coming in right now, MSRP at $32,000. Most people that I know so far have been able to get a base WRX for under MSRP, which makes it really good value. I believe last year, I think this was at right at 30,900, so basically 31,000. And the year before, I think it started at 29,900 and basically 30,000. So each year has gone up $1,000. They've added a couple of features like the base screen changed from the smaller screen to the bigger screen that we have in the premium. They started getting the eyesight system, which hate it or love it, it's here. So I've talked tons about the WRX, and we're not going to go into full detail on these things or on these individual cars, or else this video will be like an hour long. I've done some individual comparisons with some of the cars that I'm talking about, and I will continue to do that in the future. But as I was going to say as the year ends, but as this year goes on, people are talking more and more about what cars are going to be coming out in the future, and some things have changed, and not all cars that are coming in the future are going to have the same features as the WRX. Now, that specific feature I'm referring to is a 6-speed manual. Many manufacturers, especially German cars, have already stated that starting next year or maybe the year after, they're going to get rid of the 6-speed transmission. Subaru has not made any comment on that yet. I don't really know if they ever will. They're actually not very great at making comments to begin with. So let's look at the very first car. I've actually done a comparison between these two cars before, and it is the 2024 Civic Si. Now, I used to sell Hondas back in the day, and I think they are fantastic cars. It obviously comes in at a lower power figure, 200 horsepower versus 271, and it is front-wheel drive only, but it does come standard with a 6-speed, and it actually has a very nice interior. I've always found the Honda interiors to be surprisingly premium for what one would consider a economy car from Japan. And another really nice thing about the Civic Si is you do get an LSD, which is very nice considering it's front-wheel drive. Now, from the very beginning, the Civic Si that I used to sell, I think was like a 2006 or 2007. I can't remember exactly what year. Maybe it might even have been 2005. And the front LSD, the LSD helps this car handle incredibly well. I've actually had the opportunity to drive a Civic Si around a track back in the day, and it really was surprising. Now, the things where you kind of lose out from the WRX is obviously it's front-wheel drive. It is a little bit smaller, and of course, because the power is a little bit lower, it's gonna feel a little bit slower. I never considered this to be an incredibly slow car. People will look at that 200 horsepower figure and think that it's just really slow, but these clock in somewhere right around 2,900 to 3,000 pounds, and they're not very heavy, and so you don't feel like it's only 200 horsepower. So it's a good car. I think it's a great car, and if a WRX didn't exist, I probably would find myself in something like this because I used to have a Civic. Now, the problem with the Civics is you can't really find a whole lot. I was actually looking for brand new cars here in St. Louis, and there just weren't any. I think there was one Civic Si that I found that I think that was right a bit over MSRP, but the rest of them, as you can see, they're all used, and the used prices are not very good because MSRP, this car is like basically $30,000. So chances are you could probably go to the dealer and just order one. Now, what was really surprising was there's actually 5 brand new Civic Type Rs in St. Louis right now, 100% for MSRP, which is crazy. I didn't really expect that when I was looking for this car, and it's actually from good dealerships that I know around here around town. So that's the SI. If you can find one and you want something a little bit more inexpensive and you really like Hondas and you want something like this is still a really great option. Out of all the front-wheel drive cars that I'm going to look at today, and they are all front-wheel drive cars, this is probably the one that I would pick over the WRX if given the choice. Now, the next two are very interesting because I used to own a 2012 GTI back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. It was a great car, and it sucked that I had tons of electronical issues, but I never had any mechanical issues. So I think this is the 2024. Yeah, I think this is still a 2024 GTI. Is still a fantastic option. It's like 240 some horsepower, I think, right? 241 horsepower, 273 pound-foot of torque. It starts at 33,000, but what's really interesting is in the past, the base S GTI or the base GTI actually was standard manual, but the standard now is actually automatic. So in order to get a manual, you actually have to bump it up to the 380S trim, which ends up coming about the same price, $33,910, and you get a couple of added features, I think different wheels and slightly different interior, but this is still a great car because you still get the 4 doors like the Civic and the WRX, but you get a hatch, which is always appreciated. Is something that we just cannot seem to get in America for the WRX. You do have, these do also come with the front LSD, which is very nice. The interior for these cars, I gotta say, is exceptional. Even my 2012 GTI, I was surprised. This actually looks like crap. I don't know why the hell it looks like this. But the interior always felt really premium. It was always very comfortable. I always was a big fan of it. The exterior has changed a bit. It's harder for me to swallow because I'm not a big fan of those lights, but I still like it. Now, the thing about the GTI is, you always hear about the reliability of German cars, and I kind of agree. Mine was at, I think like I had it for a few years. It was at like 90,000 horsepower or 90,000 miles. And I ended up putting almost like $6,000 into just electrical work in just 1 year with the air conditioning constantly going out and other electronical issues. I actually still have a GTI alternator in my garage because I went through multiple alternators and we couldn't figure out why. So that's long term, that's kind of something you might think about, but I mean, most of the time you get in these cars new, they're really not gonna have a lot of problems. So it's a great choice. Now, if you still wanna stick with a sedan, I still, to this day, I really think that the GLI is a great, great option, especially for the price. This comes in at, I think, 228 horsepower, but it starts at $28,000. What I love about this is I actually owned a base Jetta, a 2019 base Jetta S, and it was the 162 horsepower, and it's still with the DSG or with the DHG, it felt really, really quick. Like it was a quick car. And with the new one having more horsepower, it's fairly light for what it is. It's a great option. And 28,000, I think it's like 29, yeah, like 29, 30, right under $30,000. That is an incredible deal. Now, I try to see if I could find a few of these around town. GTIs, it seems like the most popular ones are like SEs, which is still gonna come up a bit more than I would pay, like over 35,000. You see these new ones are coming in at 37. I think there was so there are some S's here in St. Louis that are like right at 32. Are there any more? Yeah, so thankfully most of the dealerships in St. Louis do sell for MSRP, so it is kind of nice that these cars are available here. I would like to actually go out and try one of these. The GLIs, on the other hand, so there's a couple of Autobahns, which gives you a little bit nicer interior, a little bit extra features, nicer wheels. Between those two, the price is just MSRP. Between the two is actually not that bad because, like, if you have the option, if you're already going to be spending $32,000 to $35,000, this is a really good option. I would definitely go with this. The comfort level on that car was pretty damn high because I think the GLI is a little bit bigger than a WRX. It definitely felt roomier in the in my Jetta when I had it versus the WRX. So something to think about. Now, of course, this is front wheel drive. I don't believe that this, I'm not 100% sure if this has a front LSD, because this is something, let me see if I could find out right now. It says front differential lock. I assume that means that's a front LSD. I don't know why they would use that terminology. What's really cool about this is you actually do have the option of automatic or manual for either of these options, which is really nice, versus you saw what happened with the GTI. You don't really get that option unless you go one trim up. And next year, I believe in 2025, the automatics are going to be pretty much standard. I think all manuals for Volkswagen are going to be gone, so something to think about for the future. Now, the next car is a little controversial because, for actually probably the same reason the WRX is controversial, and that is the Elantra N. And I know people will look at it and say, oh, it's an Elantra, or, you know, it's a Hyundai. Why would I get a Hyundai? It's all these problems, blah, blah, blah. I have not driven one of these, but I actually have a race video with one of them, and man, I gotta tell you, they are quick cars. They sound great. I think they look great inside and out. The performance is definitely there, especially with the automatic and the N-grin shift or whatever. It is a very nice car, and I am surprised that something like this even came out of Hyundai. I'm still surprised that all the cars are coming out of Hyundai, because they're actually really good. I'm a big fan of the interior. I'm a big fan of the exterior. I think it looks good. I think it's a quick car. For the price, it's also great. $33,000 is where it starts. I believe most of the ones that I saw were like, about $34,000, $35,000. We have them in St. Louis, which is crazy. It's definitely getting closer to that $35,000 mark, but I think this is with maybe some features on there. But if you can get yourself one for 33, I do believe it is a good car. This comes at 276 horsepower. Some people are saying it might be a little bit higher. Most people prefer to have the DCT over the manual. Obviously, for drag racing, the DCT is very nice. I actually did, Sam Carlegion did a video where he raced a WRX, and you can see that the Elantra N was a little bit faster. And there's nothing else to say about it. Like, I can't, you know, as a WRX owner, would I want my WRX to be faster than all these other cars? I would, but like this, it is quick. I'd say give the Elantra maybe one more generation to kind of prove that, like, hey, it's good. And I think more people will come around to it, because I do think that it is a pretty good car. I don't want to discount it just because it's a Hyundai, because I do remember when Hyundais and Kias used to look like shit back in the day, and I would have never give them like the time of day. But now it's like they've done better, you know, and they've proven that they want to continue to do better. So a great option if you can find that price, right? You don't want to buy any of these overpriced. So if you're looking for one, come to St. Louis. We've got plenty of them. Now, there's a couple of cars that I was surprised to see that just don't have anything else. Like, you look at Ford, you know, if the Focus still existed today, it would have been a great option, because, again, you get that 6-speed, you get a hatchback, you get the 4 doors, you get a turbo engine, you know, and maybe front-wheel drive, but it's something, you know, it's just another good competitor. But as you can see, Ford doesn't have anything. Like, the best they have is a Mustang, and it's kind of crazy. Actually, even cars, they don't even have a car that other than the Mustang, which is, I can't even believe that every car that they make now is some sort of SUV or some sort of truck. Another option that I kind of thought about was the Audi A3, but with the all-wheel drive one, the basic all-wheel drive one starts at $37,000, which it's too high. It's because if you're gonna pay $37,000, you might as well get like a Corolla, a GR Corolla or something like that. You know, it's just too high of a price. Now this one was really interesting because I always wondered about Challenger or Dodge Charger GTs, but like, look at that. A brand new Charger GT all-wheel drive is $41,000. That's a steep price, and that is a big, heavy car. And I think the GT only makes, I think, like 300 horsepower, and that's not a lot for a 4,400 pound car. So that was a surprise for me. Plus, I don't know if that's going to come back for 2024. I don't know how many of these Dodge cars are even going to come back for 24. I haven't really kept up with the American cars. Now, this is really interesting. I thought they still sold Kia Stingers, because that would have been a great option. I know it's a little bit heavier at like 3,800 pounds, but it makes over 300 horsepower, and it does have an all-wheel drive feature, and it has like a fastback hatch, which is kind of nice. But brand new, they don't sell anymore. I seriously thought that they were still selling them. The K5 are okay, but I mean, I wouldn't get it. I don't know. If you're looking at it in a performance standpoint, that's not the car to get. There's definitely a lot more cars that we can talk about in the used market, which I do plan on doing a whole video on that. But I mean, that just opens a huge can of worms because there's a lot of great cars you can get for used under $30,000 that do compete with the WRX. Now, this isn't a full gamut of all the cars that you could potentially buy, but these are the ones that generally I see people in the comments section always say, hey, well, you know, what about this car? Or, you know, I had XYZ car and that's faster. Now, the people that show up that say, you know, the WRX is slow and the M3 is faster or the Supra is faster, obviously that's true, but it's not really comparing apples to apples. And I purposely left out cars like the BRZ and the GR86 and even the Corolla and all that, especially the two-door cars, because they're two-door. And in this case, you still have all of the practicality and you don't really have to sacrifice a lot with any of these cars. They are all great daily drivers. I think that any one of them that you choose, you're gonna have a great vehicle and you're gonna enjoy driving it because they all have something that gives them that personality that you expect from a standard performance vehicle. And again, like I said in the very beginning, I love the WRX, but if it didn't exist, these are all fantastic options, and I'm not going to shit on them just because they're not a Subaru WRX. I've already said my case. Out of all these, what would I pick? I'd probably go with the Civic Si because I've always loved Hondas. So it's part of me, and that's what I would pick. If there was like, you know, if Toyota had a Celica today, I'd probably get a Celica, but you know, I know they're thinking about maybe bringing it back, but it's a whole different conversation. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video informative. If you have any comments on any of these cars, or you have another option that maybe I didn't mention that's brand new, throw it down in the comment section down below and maybe we can talk about it. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.